Well, hello and welcome to the e-commerce podcast. My name is Matt Edmondson, and it's great to be with you on this fine, sunny September afternoon at the time of recording. If you don't know me, I've been in e-commerce since 2002, which is a fair old while. Makes me what I call the delightful e-commerce dinosaur, I think is the phrase that we use. We've definitely been around for a while. And as a company, we were just talking about this with today's guest, Tim. What we do is we partner with e-commerce brands. It's what we do. And so if you're wondering whether that can be something that you're interested in, check it out. Give us a ring and let's have a conversation. But of course, all information you can find on the website, ecommercepodcast.net, including links to today's guest, the show notes, and also one of those beautiful forms you can put your email address in. Yes, and we will send you a newsletter once a week with all of the beautiful stuff from the podcast and a few other bits and bobs, as well as we're growing newsletter list, like every good e-commerce entrepreneur should be doing, is working their email list. Yes, they should be. And so come join us. You get a lot more value on the email list nowadays because we've worked hard to do that. And so it'd be great to see you in there. Come join us on the list, ecommercepodcast.net, to go find out more information. Anyway, all that said, let's talk to today's guest, Tim, all the way from the sunny stateside. I mean, Tim, you've got sunshine streaming through your window, so I'm guessing it's sunny for you as well.
Yeah, it is. It is. I grew up I'm from New England, not Old England, but New England. And then we moved up. My wife ended up moving out to Southern California. So I'm in San Diego.
San Diego.
Yeah.
Very good. Beautiful part of the world. I was there, San Diego, when I was there 18 months ago, about that sort of time now. Went to a Padres game. That was fun.
Did they win?
So, no. It was just one of those, but yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. It's a beautiful part of the world. So anyway, through the wonder of technology, you are here. And Tim, today we were talking about this earlier on. What we're going to talk about on today's show. Now, to give it the broad strokes, we're going to narrow in on Amazon just a little bit. Sure. But you guys have got a very different way of approaching Amazon that I wanted to hit sort of straight away. And so one of the things I like to do is ask our guests, listen, we're talking about Amazon. What's the biggest single problem that if you could solve, if you had a magic wand, what's the biggest single problem we're all making that if you could fix, you would?
Ooh, that's a great question. The single biggest problem that we're all making, I think, I'm of the opinion that everyone needs to master the fundamentals. And I'm still shocked at the PDPs that I see that are in no way optimized and ready for prime time, right? And it can be because either they're under-engineered in the sense that it's been a pretty lazy attempt. There's one or two images in the stack, the title, the description are not very helpful, or it can be the other end where it's totally over-engineered and there's too much information. It's too confusing. We were working with a company. They're a consumer product company that's actually based out of France. And we helped them with a particular campaign. Part of our job, which we can get into later, is to drive traffic and visibility to your listing. And from that perspective, the data was off the charts. It worked wonderfully well. However, they were very disappointed because sales didn't follow, because that's ultimately what matters. We dove into the product detail page and looked at, even before they worked with us, what was going on. And we've since changed our things, but the category average that they're in had a conversion rate of about 3.5%, maybe 4%. Their conversion rate was literally 0.1%.
Oh dear.
We dove in and I'm like, this is not a traffic problem. This is a conversion problem.
Yeah.
Let's go through and let's look at the best performing PDPs in your category and kind of iterate and improve them from there. But to me, it all starts with your product detail page, making sure your content strategy is accurate, making sure your title, your entire page is constructed and optimized for conversion. And I think people overlook that or underestimate it. And it's really the most important thing.
That's a really important point, isn't it? And I like it when you say the fundamentals. They're the important things, because I think, and this is true, I think, across e-commerce, right? We're looking for the latest silver bullet, the magic AI prompt, whatever that's going to be.
Yeah.
But actually, the sort of the old school principles still matter, and actually, you've got to get those right before you build all these clever dick things on top. And so, the PDP, for those of you who don't know, you have mentioned that product detail page, is one of those fundamentals, right, on Amazon, and getting that right is. I remember having a conversation with somebody who called me up once, and they're like, "Matt, listen, our website is doing this. I can't remember the exact numbers. It's like 1 million a year. We're doing 1 million a year, but our competitors are doing 10 million. And so what I want to do is 10x our ad budget to get 10 times traffic so I can get the 10 million." And I was like, "Dude, what's wrong with you?" And so I said, "Just wait there just 1 second." And I pulled up his website and his competitor's website next to each other. And I said, "You've not got a traffic problem. You've got a conversion problem." And you can tell that just straight away, right? And so we spend all this money sending people to listing pages and product pages, and they just don't convert because we've not thought about that, right? And so the traffic becomes very, very expensive.
Yeah. And even the way you just described it, right? Like it's a traffic problem or a conversion problem. Like fundamentally, I understand, similar to you, I've been in this space for a long time, not since 2002, but from 2008. And people are always looking for what's this hack that I can do. But like if you just practice the fundamentals in sport, but pick your favorite sport. If that player is really, really solid and masters their fundamentals,
Yeah.
they're going to be an important part of your team.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then just figuring out your strategy. Is it a traffic problem or a conversion problem? Like what's the most basic way, and then navigate from there is, I find to be the most important thing that people can do. People tend to overcomplicate things.
Yeah, they really do.
They do.
Especially in England. We're brilliant at overcomplicating things. Just look at the rail system. No, let's not get political, Matt. Um, so we've both mentioned, actually, just thinking about what you said and what I said, one of the things that I did, one of the things that you mentioned is pulling up a competitor's website or
Yeah.
pulling up their PDP, right? And looking at what they're doing. So go and find the good people, the top sellers in your niche, in your market. Look at their website and look at yours, compare the two and see how they're doing it better and what you can learn from that. And in some cases, how they're doing it worse. And, again, capitalizing on that. But what other things should we think about when it comes to our product detail page? So what are the fundamentals of the product detail page that we need to really hone in on?
Well, I believe the statistic is something like 70% of shoppers don't even read the product description. They rely on the image stack,
Yeah.
and that's what people look at to make their purchasing decisions. So I think,
I'm one of those 70%, by the way.
yeah, me too, right? Like me too. And by the way, I don't even look at all seven. Like I go to like two or three.
Yeah, that's it. I've made
And
my
make
decision. I've looked at the pictures. I've looked at the price, and I've looked at the heading. I've made a decision.
price, rating,
Yeah,
maybe number of reviews. Although after a certain point, it doesn't matter.
that's
And
true. Yeah,
and like in a few pictures.
yeah,
That's it. Like again, keep it simple, right? So
yeah.
image stack is by far the most important thing. And then, just understanding within the detail page itself, what is the actual, what's the actual purpose for each one of those things? Like, what's the purpose for the title? Like, what the purpose for the product description? And making sure that you're optimizing the content for the audience and that purpose, right? So, and understanding that the purpose and the content that's on there is not a static thing. It's a living, breathing thing. The way people use your product may evolve over time, and certainly the way they talk about it will. And so the way you talk about it and the way you position it in the image stack is critical, right? So we have a one customer that makes prenatal and postpartum products for mom and baby, right? So you're pregnant or you've just had a baby. They make products for mom and baby. They created a pregnancy pillow, something that is critical to help mom with some better sleep towards the end of her pregnancy. And when they initially made their image stack, it was focused on that. But when they put it out in the hands of a bunch of different creators in the community, what they found is that these moms were using it. They were taking pictures and using it like in the car when they were driving to go visit mom one more time before the baby's born, or kind of like travel comfort on the airplane and they're
Yeah.
like, man, we didn't even have that in our image stack, right? So that's a
Yeah.
big miss. So that's what I mean by like you got to understand that just what your product, just because you set it up once, it's not a set it and forget it. You need to come back
Yeah.
and revisit each one of those sections and making sure that they're still serving the purpose for which it was originally created.
Yeah, absolutely. And testing it, right? And testing different things, and not just leaving it on autopilot. And we've been testing and playing around with different things like the wording that we use, to describe
Yeah.
benefits on the images. And so you can use a lifestyle shot like that, like the being in a car is that's a lifestyle shot, but that tells a story, and it tells
Sure
people
does.
there's a lot of this sort of unconscious questions that people have that a shot like that can say, like, who's it for? How can you use it? All of these things in the back of their head that one simple photo, a picture takes 1,000 words, right?
I was just gonna
And
say.
yeah, absolutely. It still works. It's still powerful. And thinking carefully about the stories that you want to tell with the images that you've got and the words that you can put on those images, I think are really, really fascinating. And it's interesting, isn't it? This sort of evolution of images on Amazon. I mean, you've been around for a while. You've obviously seen this. I was saying to a previous guest, Sean, I can't remember really the last time I read a product description on Amazon, mainly because it's not that easy to distinguish what is the product description, right? It's like, where is it? There's a lot going on an Amazon page. I wouldn't do that on your own e-commerce website, by the way. But on Amazon, they seem to get away with it. And you tend not to read it. Occasionally, if it's a well-known brand, you can kind of scroll down and there'll be a video somewhere, which might be helpful. But again, that's telling story, isn't it? That's answering all those questions because I don't want to read the text.
Yeah. The video could be in the A+ content. It could also be in the last slot in the image stack, which is the best practice, right? Throw a video in there in slot 7. But yeah, no, it's you're right. You should be constantly testing and iterating. Like it's never done, right? Like you're chasing
Never.
perfection, even though perfection is not possible. But that's still, if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're listening because you're trying to get a little bit better at what you do, which means you're chasing perfection as well.
No, that's true.
So,
I'm curious, Tim, have you, not to stay on this too long, but I'm curious, have you seen people take this principle, what we call the image stack on Amazon, where you do now see images with a lot of text and lifestyle shots, as well as, the usual sort of dull and boring one at the start. Have you seen people reverse that and put that on their website? Because that intrigues me, right? So a lot of websites still very much a case of studio product shots, and
yeah.
but on Amazon it's obviously quite different. I'm curious if you've seen people reverse engineer this onto their own sites.
On their direct to consumer websites?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Here's the way I would answer that. With what we've seen is that, and I believe Profitero has a great study on this. But what we've seen is that when you have UGC, authentic user generated content, whether that's from a creator that you've worked with, an Instagram type creator, TikTok creator, or if it's just from your own stable of brand advocates that you have, like people that are just passionate about your product for some reason. When you have UGC in the image stack on Amazon, conversion rate goes up. I forget, it's like 8 to 10% just from having that kind of authentic imagery. And I have definitely seen an increase in user generated content imagery on the direct to consumer. It's just as a meta trend in the industry, not even in the industry, excuse me, in society. I feel like there's a general meta trend around being authentic and being real, which is interesting because the rise of social media is so inauthentic, right? So
The
inauthentic.
irony
People
is
think,
not lost. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's why there was even like remember that was like an app a little while ago called Be Real. You take it, but the idea of just being, I mean, one of the things people love about Taylor, I can't remember I have three little girls, so maybe that's why. Taylor
Okay.
Swift is a very big name in our house, having three daughters, but, but like one of the things that she does a great job of is connecting with her fan base, like or
Yeah.
not dislike her music. I think everyone out there, no matter what company you're in, can learn from her in terms of how to engage and connect with your audience
Yeah.
in a very real way, very real
Yeah.
way. And with that,
Yeah.
that kind of like real connection that everyone's trying to drive for. And UGC is a very strong tool to do that, right? Um,
Mhm.
in particular, I've seen a couple of our different customers essentially make a collage, like in one image, but that one image is a collage of different people and different use cases. And it works because no matter who you are, there's somebody in that collage that you can look at and say, oh, that's me. I can now see
Yeah.
myself with your product. I can see myself using your product now because there's someone who's just like me in that image that I connect with.
Yeah. That's super cool. Yeah. I was just about to say to you what kind of user generated content works well in the image type, but you've answered it, the collage
There we go.
type thing.
Yeah, the collage works really well, and I've seen it, primarily as an image, an individual image, but we've also seen um, short form video come about with people
Okay.
kind of posting all these different things, and so you can play with it. And again, to your point, you can test and learn with it,
Yeah.
and that's part of the fun of this game. I don't know, that's part of the fun of what we're doing here,
Yeah.
right? Let's test, let's learn what are
Yeah.
different things that we can do to get an edge here. But certainly connecting with your customer through the photos and through the videos is an important, I think, way to do it.
Yeah. Because it's interesting, isn't it? We have this phrase, Tim, you won't know this, but we have this phrase called digital Davids, right? And we
Okay.
talk a lot about this for e-commerce entrepreneurs. It's like, I am a digital David taking on the e-commerce giants, right? So I have to play the game according to what works for me. I think in the
Right.
old story, David didn't wear Saul's armor. He kind of figured out what was going to work for him, and he sort of took on the giants. And of course, the giants, the bad guys, because every store needs a bad guy, right? We talk
Yeah.
about Amazon and Walmart and all these people, the big brands with the big deep pockets that can do things that as mere mortals can't do. And it's an interesting analogy, right? How we do this, and one of the key things I think, one of the key ways that you win that war, is you tell your story authentically. You have a personality. You, for want of a better expression, to be the sort of the face of the brand, to connect with people, a bit like Taylor Swift, like you were talking about. And I totally agree that if you can do that well, that's where bigger companies can't really do that. You know, Apple. If you think about Apple, Tim Cook, he makes an annual appearance, doesn't he? But that's Apple, right? And they're going to do what Apple does. But in the meantime, if I'm trying to compete with Apple, I'm out every day. I'm talking to you every day. I'm doing stuff that Apple can't do. And I think that's where you win. And it's interesting that this is now filtering through into Amazon, that actually you can bring that brand voice, you can bring that brand identity, you can bring that story that resonates with your customers just in 7 short images.
Yeah, and I think the important part is to make it come across in as many different ways as you can. You
Mm,
know, um, in the images, in the description, in the title. Certainly on your D2C, you have to take full advantage of that real estate, right?
yeah.
But as a challenger brand or a digital David, you know, you can't play the game the same way everybody else is. If you're
Mm,
you're just a Me2 product and you're not going to make it. You have to
yeah.
change the game, right? You have to be um, different. Right?
Mm,
There's a fellow named Christopher Lochhead who you can follow on LinkedIn. He's a retired CMO. He's written a few books, but the if you were to take all of his content and distill it down into one thing, he said, you win by being different. So it's interesting because as growing up, especially as a teenager, and like you're doing all you can to kind of blend in and fit in.
Yeah. You want to be the same as
Right?
everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is interesting because the way you actually get outsized returns in life is to not fit in. It's to be different and to celebrate those differences. And, as a challenger brand, it's really important that you don't play by the same rules as everybody else. That you push the envelope in whatever way makes sense. Because if you don't, you're just not going to make it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. We could wax lyrical about this, Tim.
Yeah.
I'm going to get on my soapbox in a little minute. But before I do, let me bring it back on track. Let's bring it back. Now, you have this idea, don't you, that your company talks about marketing to the algorithm. Is a phrase which intrigued me when I got it in the notes, talking about Amazon. And you describe what you guys do over at Product Wind as an assault on the algorithm, which I think is quite an interesting phrase.
Yeah.
In a sort of these sort of four things that you do. Before we get into it, let's just talk about what you mean by marketing to the algorithm and why your approach is different and why we need to talking about different. What, did you see the segue there?
Yeah.
I've just seen it
I do.
myself. Genius.
That's why you're the pro. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm just lucky and figure it out as I go along, which is normally what happens. But how is it different? This marketing to the algorithm thing. What is that all about?
Yeah. So the fundamental, it's really a theology more than anything else, right? The fundamental belief that we have at Product Wind is all of these marketplaces. We can talk just about Amazon, but I believe all of them, they're algorithmically driven.
Yep.
And that's not going to change. These retailers are really tech shops, and they are investing more and more into automation, into AI chatbots, and into different ways that they can use technology to make their business more nimble, faster, etc. And so it's this algorithm that is really the thing that's determining your product's success. It's determining its placement, its relevancy to the consumer search, etc. And a question we ask all of our customers is, well, okay, so if we all agree that, Amazon, as an example, is algorithmically driven, and it's the thing that's determining your product, what's your strategy for marketing to the algorithm? How are you influencing the algorithm to like your product more than others? And this is an example, to your point, of being different, not playing the same game as everybody else.
Yeah.
And a lot of people kind of, even when they're represented by some of the big ad agencies that we all know, right? A couple of them based there in England, like everyone kind of shrugs their shoulders. And because, 10 years ago or whatever it was, I used to work for Kantar, owned by WPP, if you know those folks. And we would help brands get ready for their buyer meeting, right? Because they had to make sure the buyer liked them to get all this favorable placement and different things that they wanted. Well, the buyer position has evolved over time. It's evolved, and a lot of what you were doing there is really handled by the algorithm now. The algorithm is determining how much of your product to buy, where to place it, right? How it should be positioned to the marketplace, etc. And because it's moved from a buyer, or it's moved from being a person to a piece of technology, this piece of it anyway, people feel like they can't really market to it. But that's not true. It's not true at all. An algorithm, it just needs data. So you know what? Why not give it the data it loves? So that's all we do. At Product Wind, we launch campaigns specifically to market to the algorithm, and then there's a whole bunch of benefits that follow downstream when you do that.
That sounds. When I read it and preparing for today's conversation, I thought this is quite smart because years ago, before the internet, which I remember being a man of a certain age, you used to have to do this thing called networking. And you would have to go and shake the hands of people, and and you would have to wine and dine, and should we go out for a meal? I've avoided the golf thing. I never had to go play a round of golf, and And it's that kind of thing, isn't it? I've been involved. I was on the board of a non-exec as a non-exec on for a PLC company here in the UK, which is a listed, a company listed in an exchange,
Sure.
and they sold a lot of product into places like Tesco, right? It's just what it did.
Sure.
And so you're like, okay, so who's in charge at Tesco? How do we get to know that guy? How do we make him like us so that we get better placement on the shelves, right? There was a whole strategy conversation around this. How much money can we put into that as a strategy? What can we do? Can we take them to Dubai, or can we take them
Right.
to, Jakarta or somewhere exotic and just wine and dine them? Um, but I love what you're talking about, because it's old school principles. Only I'm not taking a guy to Tahiti. I'm giving I'm understanding how to seduce an algorithm, which is a little bit different thinking, but it's the same principle. And I love this as an idea, Tim. How did you guys figure this out?
Uh, like all startups, you over time, right? Make
By accident is the usual
figure it
phrase,
out.
isn't it?
Yeah, like a lot of go left, go right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Uh, so our founder, right? The company was founded with this idea that specifically focusing on helping companies launch new products, new product
Hmm.
launch. Doesn't matter if you're Unilever or Matt's hot sauce, right? Like you struggle
Yeah,
to launch a new item, and make it, and have it become retail ready, gain traction, become successful. It's a struggle. So the original idea of the company was, well, the best way to launch a new product is to try to help it go viral on social channels. So we were launching, you know, campaigns with 100 TikTok creators, 100 Instagram reels, and just kind of trying to generate a ton of buzz through traditional social methods. And the problem for us, other people may have solved this, but what we couldn't solve for ultimately was it was impossibly difficult to figure out which one of these videos was going to take off, right?
yeah,
Because oftentimes the video that, frankly, I personally liked the least, and it's like, wow, this one's going crazy, and even if it did go crazy and become, get quite a bit of visibility, we then still had a hard time connecting. What does 10,000 likes mean? You're modeling out, what does 10,000 likes mean for sales? For every 10,000 likes, I'm going to get this much in sales. We weren't
yeah,
able to, at least in a reliable, predictable way, be able to consistently deliver on
yeah,
that. And so when you can't do that, you either have to change your strategy or change the way you're using it, which I think, for us who are trying to do more lower funnel, mid funnel type of work, I just couldn't make that connection.
yeah,
Or you just change your approach. So what we've noticed, though, was that as there were other indicators, other things that we were able to reliably start to drive on. And so we just leaned into that. So we've moved from a world where we said you need to have a couple hundred people out on the social channels talking about you, to a world now where we have, at this point, over 1,000 plus successful campaigns that we use as a validation that this is
yeah,
working, to a world now where instead we are working with like e-commerce creators in a very specific way, which I'm happy to get into, to um, drive traffic and sales, drive sales
mm,
velocity, conversion rate, and
yeah,
really assemble just an army of people to go send in those signals. Because
mm,
turns out, I think the best way to make your product be successful in terms of driving sales isn't to make it more visible on Instagram. It's to make it more visible on Amazon, make it more credible on Amazon, move it from
yeah,
page slot 87 in the search results to slot 7, right?
yeah,
And when your product is on page 1, it's on top 10, and it's got credibility around it in terms of product ratings, product reviews. It's got good images. So what we started to call the product detail page is
hmm,
at least fundamentally sound. If you do that, you're gonna drive sales, and then
yeah.
you can literally spin the flywheel, right?
Yeah, no,
So
that's true.
yeah,
But this
that's
is
what
what
we're
you do. This is marketing to the algorithm, right? This is understanding what Amazon wants. Um,
yeah.
and so, um, according to those people that know a lot more than me, Product Wind has identified 7 key signals that signals algorithms, Amazon's algorithm value. That's not an easy word to say. Amazon's algorithm value. There we go.
Uh-huh.
Number 1 is external traffic. Number 2, click-through rate improvements. Number 3, sales velocity. Number 4, conversion rate optimization. Number 5, reviews and ratings. Number 6, engagement metrics like time on page and interactions. And number 7, content freshness and relevance. Now, I was looking down this list, Tim, and I was going, they all apply to your direct to consumer websites as well, right? I mean, this is
Absolutely.
the same. You just, I guess, suppose you're talking to a different algorithm, which is Google, in
Right.
essence, or AI now, because AI is just
Yeah.
destroying
Yeah.
the Google search, isn't it? So
Yeah.
um, there's always something. Um, so some of these are obvious, like obviously, we need some more external traffic. So, well, actually, I say that's obvious. That might not be obvious to people when thinking about Amazon, because I'm assuming the default thinking is right. I'll send external traffic to my website, and all internal traffic on Amazon can go to my product page, and I'll just keep those two systems working side by side like that. But one of the things mentioned here is external traffic. What do you mean by that, and why is it so powerful?
Yeah. So this is something that we've seen in our data become more important over time with Amazon. And I think if I were to assert as to why, it's because Amazon now makes the majority of their money selling ads, right? It's more
Mm,
profitable than AWS.
yeah,
And to your point, I'm so old. Like I remember when retailers said it's unfair that Amazon is AWS. It gives them an unfair advantage in terms of putting money into R&D, et
yeah,
cetera.
yeah,
But now that's not even where it all comes from, is their ads. And
yeah.
so as
They've become Google, haven't they, in many ways?
they have, so the, the more amount of people you can get from out of Amazon's property to come into Amazon's ecosystem, to come into Amazon and start to shop and browse, Amazon loves that and they
Mm,
reward that accordingly. So, the way that we help influence that is we might work with 500 or even 1,000 people. It's like organize an army of people. And let's just do basic math. Actually, I'll stick with 500 people and we'll say, all right, hey, we're all working on this campaign for such and such company. Go through some qualifications to see if it makes sure that makes sense for them to join. This is what the software will do automatically for
yeah,
you. But then we'll say is okay, great. Well, we don't necessarily want to make a public post because there's a lot of scrutiny and some challenges that can come about representing the brand on Instagram. So instead, can you help drive traffic through offline means, whether that's a text message or email? And if all of those 500 people validate and can show and prove that they've driven at least 20 clicks, that means as a piece of software, 20 times 500 is 10,000 visits. We
mm,
can now influence and kind of coordinate, or orchestrate is maybe the right word, orchestrate when and how these 10,000 visits come to the product detail page, which
yeah.
is how you can start to market to the algorithm because you can show those KPIs that you just mentioned. The trick is to be able to show all of those KPIs improving with increased intensity, kind of week over week over week. And when you do that for a certain amount of time, you literally have started to spin the flywheel in your favor.
So, thank you for explaining it. And I'm listening to you talk, and I'm thinking, geez, 500 people, that's a lot of people, right? And I've got an established business where I go, well, okay, I can think in those kind of numbers. But if I'm starting out,
Mm-hmm.
do I need 500 people? Is 500 people expensive? I mean,
Yeah,
it
it's
just
a good
sounds like a
question.
lot of people to try and what was the phrase you used? Orchestrate, which is a very good use of the language
Yeah.
there. But to orchestrate 500 people, I think that sounds like a bit of a deal, right? I mean,
So,
there's a lot of work there.
well, first of all, if you are a, yeah, if you're the brand itself, if you're working with a provider like us or someone else, whether you use 5 or 500, it's the same amount of work for you.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't have to do anything. The software does it all. So then it's strictly about the cost and the pricing, and does this make economic sense? And the good news is there's a very clear business case, and you can figure it out based on your own business goals and where you are. It should be a very easy decision, frankly. But the amount that you need, it varies. It depends on how competitive the category is and where you are. So I'll give you an example. Well, we already mentioned earlier that the company that does prenatal products, that the pregnancy pillow company.
Yeah.
They also have another thing that they have for anybody out there who's had a kid recently. They get a cold and you kind of like suck the boogers out of their nose. So if you're not a parent, you're like, that sounds disgusting. Like I would never do that. I will never do that. But add to the list of things you say you'll never do. And then once you have kids, like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I remember my wife one point saying, I'm never going to have a minivan. It's like, I'll tell you what her favorite thing is to be owned. The minivan is her favorite thing, man. It's unbelievable. My favorite thing.
Can I admit at this point in the podcast, I don't have a minivan. I just have a van. I got rid of the sports cars and I got a van, and it was the best decision I ever made. Love that thing. Absolutely love it. Anyway, I just
totally.
My 20-year-old self is punching me in the face right now. What are you talking? What have we become?
Dude, man. Right? 20-year-old me would just be not be impressed. Not be impressed. But going back to the size of the campaign, so they have this product that sucks the boogers out of your kid's nose.
Yeah.
They call it an infant nasal aspirator. There's not a lot of competition. For that. And so because there's just not a ton of search volume and like shopping activity on that category, you can probably get away with like 50 people, right? Like you just don't need much. But then the other end of the spectrum, go to like a consumer electronic product, like a speaker or a headphones, where there's millions of purchases that are happening, right? And you're competing with companies like Bose and Sony and Apple. Like, well, there's so much activity there. If you come in with 50, visits or 50 creators or what have you, it's just not enough noise. Right? So part of marketing to the algorithm is understanding how much noise do I have to make to get its attention. And that is very specific to what's the product you have. Yeah.
And is that easy enough to figure out, the noise level?
Yeah. I mean, so everyone, first of all, you don't have to use Product Win to do this. Everyone can do this stuff themselves. And if you're just getting going, you're just getting started, there's going to be some trial and error. But the way that I would think about it, the framework that I would do is for Amazon, we use a plugin, a software called Helium 10.
Yeah.
Which some of you may know, may not know, but within Helium 10, it'll tell you what kind of what all the popular search terms are on Amazon for any given product, and how much activity is happening on any one of those search terms.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we use that along with your expected sales forecast. Are you expecting to sell 20 units a month, 200 units a month, 2,000, whatever, like what's the order of magnitude? And we use those two inputs, to dial in how many creators do you think we should be using. And the good news is, because Amazon's algorithm is so sophisticated, there is a true stimulus and response.
Yeah.
Right. So you can do something and within a week kind of see, did it work? And so what you can do is you can start off with a stable and then just decide as you monitor things, hopefully on a daily basis, but at least weekly, is this something I need to turn up or is this something I need to turn down? And then you can start to understand for your own business and product, kind of like your own model and forecasting for how to do this.
Yeah. That's super helpful. Super helpful. It's interesting, isn't it? Like you say, again, bringing it back, the difference here is marketing to the algorithm. It's understanding what the algorithm wants and then giving the algorithm exactly what it wants.
Yeah.
And in this case, external clicks. Amazon is in their latest, what algorithm number are we on now? Number 10 or something like that. It's loving it, isn't it? These sort of external
Yeah.
click
Yeah.
type things.
What's interesting is as Cosmo and Rufus become more involved inside of Amazon, that's their AI kind of search
Yeah.
component. They this stuff is actually becoming more and more important, right? Essentially,
Mm.
what's happened is the digital shelf of options has gone from, at first we used to talk about, remember, called the endless aisle. When we were back in 2010, Matt, we were talking about, oh, it's this endless aisle, this infinite aisle of options for can openers or whatever you're looking
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
And then we realized, no, it's not really true. It's really, you got to be on page one.
Mm.
So you have to be top X. And then page one has turned into this billboard of, paid placements everywhere. And now with Rufus in particular on Amazon, Rufus shows 5 options. So there's an
Yeah.
argument that says there's 5 placements, and now they used to all be organic, and it's already transitioned into some sponsored placements in there. So to play this game, you need to be able to really help the algorithm love your product, and so
Yeah.
more that you can emphasize those KPIs you mentioned,
Mm.
and have a strategy or a plan in place to build on it. What you don't want to do is show the algorithm that you're here today, gone tomorrow,
Mm.
because then it's going to be like, well, the next
Yeah.
time you show a spike, it's still going to be like, well, is this here today, gone tomorrow? So you
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
need to have a little bit of a
Yeah.
longer, I don't mean super long, but you got to have at least a 30, 60-day plan to show this ramping over
Yeah, you
time.
do. Yeah. My experience actually with Amazon is it gets better and better.
It does.
Almost like a fine wine. If you play the system and you understand the system, it does get better and better. A bit like SEO. The longer you're around, the easier SEO is because you've been around.
Yeah,
And Google goes, "Oh, you've been around for 10 years. Well, you're not likely to go anywhere if I recommend your site." Right. So it's it does get easier, I think, with longevity.
absolutely. And that's what we're talking about here, Matt, is an SEO play, right?
Mm.
That's where we're trying to drive your product's visibility inside of a marketplace, inside of Amazon, move it from page 3 to page 1, and everything gets anchored off of that visibility. Especially with all the money going into retail media now,
Yeah.
and how many dollars people throw in retail media. The great thing about this SEO play is that your product is ranking more higher inside of Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes your sponsored rank higher, which makes your retail media more efficient and more effective.
Mm.
So you can actually spend less dollars on retail media and get the same results you're getting today.
Yeah, yeah. The rising tide floats all boats idea, isn't it? It's
Exactly.
intriguing to me because the nature of ecom, the nature of Amazon is such that it is crazy. Everyone's crazy busy, right? When you started out, you had a website and then that was about it. And now there's
Yeah.
all these marketplaces and you've got to think about social and you've got to think about this and you're juggling 20,000 balls in the air as an ecom manager. And so you go, well, we need more sales. So what's the easy thing to do? The quick one is to just throw some money at it. So I'll just ramp up my ad spend. But that's what 99% of people are doing. Not many people are doing what you've been talking about. And actually, if you can invest in that now, I think you separate yourself in the medium to long term, because
No doubt. No
you're
doubt.
investing not just the money, you're investing the time to go, let's get this right. Let's get these foundations right. Because not many people are doing that, which makes it actually more opportunistic. There's less competition, perhaps, whereas the competition's all for the AdWords.
You nailed it. You nailed it. And actually, you said something really interesting there, around the foundation piece, which is we talked earlier about launching a new product. If you're doing this when your product first comes onto the marketplace, you're literally building your business on a foundation of such solid data, right? Like an
Mm,
algorithm, the foundation of your ASIN, your Amazon product, is so strong that it sets you up for the possibility of just long-term super sustained success,
yeah.
versus if it takes your product 6, 9 months to get there, the foundation of data it's being built on is much softer, which means your
Mm,
staying power isn't quite as strong,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
is a bit of a long game too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Persistence wins. Apparently, water beats the rock every time. Now, Tim, listen, I'm aware of time and how quickly it has gone. How do people reach you? How do they connect with you if they want to do that? Good sir.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn if you want to search for Tim Wilson Product Wind, or just jump on to productwind.com. We'd be happy to show you some software that automates all of this, or just have a chat about what we're seeing others in your space do to be successful.
Yeah. Fantastic. We will, of course, link to Tim's LinkedIn and to the Product Wind site in the show notes. So if you're subscribed to the newsletter, which I mentioned earlier on, that will be in your inbox. If you didn't, it won't be. You're going to have to go on the web and find it, which is why you should subscribe to the newsletter. Just make
I
your
would
life
definitely
easier.
subscribe. Absolutely.
That's what I should do. I should get every guest that comes on the podcast to give like a 30-second like promo for the news. Anyway,
Yeah.
listen, Tim, in the last 2 minutes, we like to do this thing called saving the best till last. What's the top tip you've got? Deliver the maximum value you can for all those that have stayed till the end. In the last 2 minutes, the mic is yours, my friend.
What's the top thing that you can do? You know, I feel like we discussed it a little bit earlier, but I think that around mastering the fundamentals. But the number one thing that I would say is top thing you can do is to engage with your customers that love you the most. The amount of rich, exciting information that we've got by helping brands talk to and communicate with those brand lovers that love them the most has been changing. We've seen customers launch new products, launch new innovations, change the way they position themselves on a product detail page. I mentioned that one company that didn't realize they should have the pregnancy pillow with photo shoots in the car. And those things are gold, and they're right there. And if they're not free, they're super low cost to you. So as an emerging brand, lean into your best customers and don't worry about everyone else.
Fantastic. Top tip there from Tim. Tim, listen, man, genuinely loved having you on the show. I feel like I say this a fair bit actually with our guests. I feel like we've just scraped the tip of the iceberg, as they say. We were just starting to get into something good, and the hour's gone. But listen, really appreciate you coming on. Really nice to meet you all the way from San Diego on the other side of the world. Yeah, all the best, my friend.
Thank you, Matt. Loved being here. Love chatting. Hope to do it again soon.
No doubt. No doubt we should. We absolutely should. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us, folks. It's been great to be with you this week. Make sure you like and subscribe and all of that sort of good stuff, because you will get next week's podcast if you do. But that's it from me. That's it from Tim. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you are in the world. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.